Hey everybody, welcome to your weekly astro energy forecast for the collective for the week of May 30th through June 5th. And we are in the thick of retrogrades. Obviously we have the major outer planets already in retrograde. We've already been discovering the power of Pluto and Saturn ever since January, and it has been compellingly revolutionary for all of us in our lives, and we are being tested on our sense of structure and authority. And it's been really hard, right? But currently, we are also in the thick of Venus going retrograde, and also in turn becoming a morning star as opposed to an evening star. So you may have been seeing beautiful Venus up in the sky in recent times. A very, very bright star. Well, we won't be seeing her for a while because she will be going into the underworld, under the horizon. And as we have talked about in recent weeks, she is also squaring Neptune and wreaking havoc for all of us in many ways, forcing us into another emotional deep dive in order for us to once and for all resolve the emotional attachments to trauma and conditioning that get in the way of us stepping into the fullness of our spiritual capacity. It's a tall order, but Venus is very powerful, as is Neptune. And Neptune is also the planet of illusion and at the other end of the spectrum, magic, dreams, stardust. But what can happen between those extremities can alter our entire life, including, and perhaps most importantly, our belief systems. So a lot of people right now are going through some very, very radical shifts in their belief system, on the macro and on the microcosmic level. So we have to stay very, very mindful of the work that we're doing on ourselves, quietly, in meditation, making sure that we take care of our bodies. That is essentially what this entire health crisis has been all about, is the reminder from Mother Earth that we need to take care of ourselves, and we need to be attuned to ourselves if we want to survive and flourish. Mercury is going to be going retrograde in a couple of weeks, but it is actually already going into its retrograde shadow in the next couple of days. So we can expect to start to feel a little bit of that energy, and we are actually back in the same dynamics again that we had this time last year, where the Mercury retrogrades are all in water signs. And we had that Mercury retrograde in Pisces a couple of months ago, and now we are going through the Cancerian retrograde. And this is probably going to be a real test of our communication skills. Mercury is the planet of communication. And Cancer rules our emotions, and the moon, and so in many ways My experience is that this has a lot to do with our mental health. Mercury and Cancer together brings up some sort of either mental health crisis or resolution. As most of the people that are going to have the opportunity to watch this video are probably already quite mindful and spiritually oriented, I would imagine you've already been through crisis in the mental sphere at some point in your life, and so the chance to resolve the things that perhaps this Venus square Neptune, Venusian retrograde energy, in combination with the Mercury and Cancer energy, this is all an alchemical process in order to bring us into a lightness of being. Eventually, we're going to get there. And it seems like it's never going to happen, because there's always more work to do, and there will always be more work to do. But, that said, there are moments in our evolutionary process where we can make some real leaps and bounds in unexpected ways, and the mind is often, given its unmapped status, quite able to surprise us. I had a mental breakdown in a Mercury retrograde in Cancer, and so I do speak from a first-hand knowledge perspective on this. It's going to be vital in this retrograde that we find ways of stabilizing ourselves, securing ourselves, especially as we see our society attempting to reopen following lockdown restrictions. There's a lot of fear in the collective, and there's a lot of anger as a result of other subsequent developments in terms of social unrest. Injustices are coming to the surface, which is a Capricornian energy, and as you know, we are deep in the thick of Capricornian energy, with Saturn and Pluto both bringing notions of death and destruction, and order, and the law of time, and the illusion of time. So as these things all converge for us, we have obvious reasons to ground ourselves and to provide ourselves with everything that we need in order to have a conscientious experience of our thoughts and how we communicate them. Mars is also in Pisces at present, which is a very, very, very strange place, in my opinion, for Mars, because Mars is an action planet, and it is a planet of male energy, the warrior archetype, anger, rage, violence, aggression. These are not elements that go hand in hand with water signs, which are watery and emotionally vulnerable, sometimes guarded as a result of that, but vulnerable nonetheless. So Mars in Cancer causes a little bit of a dichotomy within us, where we have to really pay attention to how our emotions are externalized. When we know the power of our words, Mercury pushes us into a flow of communication. When Mercury is going in retrograde in a water sign, and Mars is also in a water sign, it's advisable to think before we speak, because it will be coming purely from an emotional place, and with the retrograde energies, that's going to potentially be negative. So we have to be very cautious. That does not mean that you will necessarily have outbursts of emotion. If you're a very centered person, then the reality is that you probably have tools in place to avoid that from happening. But as we've all learned from this past week, with these energies having already been around a little bit, it hasn't been that easy, particularly for people who are reintegrating society, whether that be going back to work or trying to navigate their frustrations as everybody fatigues from having been on pause. It's the inner turmoil that can ultimately cause us the most damage. So, I think that's pretty much all I want to say about the astrology, except to know, of course, that in a week's time, this time next week when I'm doing this video, it will be the full moon in Gemini? Is it? I think so. Anyway, that's an eclipse. It's the start of a new eclipse season, and the one that we completed last had begun in the summer of 2017, so we know how pivotal eclipses can be in terms of our personal lives and massive changes on the geopolitical front. So brace yourselves, because, well, as I keep saying, this is not going to be an easy year for our world and for our structures that we are attached to societally, culturally, economically. The next 4 years are a path to total destruction of an old way of seeing humanity and the planet that we call home. We have to do the work to mentally prepare for this, whether we want to or not, and we have to awaken those around us to give them the tools to start realizing that this shift is coming. For some people, that, self-preservation is like making sure that you have enough money in the bank and that you own property and that you can take care of yourself if there is a shortage or a crisis. These types of changes that we are going to see probably will be challenging our society well beyond those types of limitations. And so I think instead we need to prepare ourselves mentally and spiritually, which is what this whole journey has been about. And I want to thank all of you that do follow this steadfastly for having faith in my ability to bring information to you that will be of use, not only in your everyday life, but also in understanding just exactly where our world is headed as we move out of 3D consciousness into 5D consciousness. There's a lot of challenging topics that people that are very firmly planted in 3D are not going to be able to understand, and so we're going to have to find ways of expressing these shifts in I don't want to sound condescending by saying in layman's terms, but in a way where emotionally the truth of things is more accessible and palatable and digestible. So let's all work together on figuring out how we can do that, because this is such a pivotal time for us to make sure that we lift spirits, even though we ourselves are being targeted energetically and finding ourselves struggling to keep that centeredness in place. And the more we move into those 5D realities, the more targeted we're going to become. So we have to strengthen ourselves. We have to fortify our spiritual light. Anyway, I've been rambling enough about all of that, and we still have to get to our Wisdom of the Oracle card and our Spirit Animal Oracle card and our tarot reading. So I'll be right back. So this week's Wisdom of the Oracle card is Come to the Edge. I don't know whether you can see that. The light's not really right for that, but anyway, in a whimsical way you can see that. I don't know what the hell she's doing. She's on a piece of earth, floating in air, throwing heart-shaped petals around, dancing on the edge. And that makes sense, because the card is called Come to the Edge. And that is number 36. So the essential meanings of Come to the Edge are courage, taking a leap of faith, overcoming fear, and accepting risk. So it's interesting that that's what we're being asked to do at this very specific time when things are actually in retrograde motion. The oracle message is, facing the unknown is the only choice you really have right now if you want to progress. It's okay to be afraid. Now is the time to take a risk that is not calculated, to feel the exhilaration as you ready yourself for a leap of faith. Spirit is present, so let yourself go and let go of fear. You are called to express your true self. Listen to your heart and soul, not your head. Come to the edge and discover that you can fly. You must step into the unfamiliar so that you may find your miracles. And that's just a continuation of exactly the messages that we had last week, about courage and about giving ourselves new opportunities, because that is what we are here for. It's the only purpose of our lives, is to have new experiences. We are not meant to fit into little boxes and decide that that's the only experience that we're going to have is the one that we've had by a certain point in our lives. We got to keep growing, and that means that we have to make ourselves uncomfortable. And nobody likes to be uncomfortable. And a lot of what I'm experiencing right now energetically is that sense of, people are very entitled to comfort, and anything that's a threat to their comfort gets in the way of their moral compass. That's all I have to say about that. The relationship message for this, for those of us or those of you who interact with other people, some don't at this point. And sometimes that's an envious place to be. It's scary to be truly intimate with someone, to allow him or her to see all of you, especially the parts that you've kept hidden and protected. Now is the time to take that risk and let yourself be seen, truly seen. It's important that you speak up, voice what you need, state who you are, say what you hope for. This is not the time to play it safe, but to take a leap of faith. You will be glad you did. If you're seeking a relationship, the same applies. Take one step towards the gods, and they will deliver what you truly desire. And that's a big problem, right? Because we have to know what we want. And a lot of the time we really don't. And a lot of the time we think we know what we want. And you know what? When you get it, you realize that that's not what you wanted at all. So we have to really actually take a lot of time to think about that. Especially when we're being told by divine intervention that we have to be prepared for getting the things that we want. If ever there was a time for you to take a leap of faith into the unknown, it's now. This is the perfect moment to take a big risk. The unknown is the only choice now, and if you come to the edge, you will discover treasure beyond your wildest dreams. Allow your courage to lead you in spite of all your fears. You don't need to know the exact form of what you're going for. The essence is much more powerful, and Spirit has a way of delivering an even better version of prosperity than you could imagine. Take that step. The results will be amazing. And I think a lot of us are also feeling very frustrated, those of us who have really had to put our lives on hold, and there are many of us, obviously, but when the stakes are high, it's really scary to have to reintegrate and to start anew, and to know that the cards are stacked against you on some level if you are going to try to do the same thing that you were doing before. That, I think, is what this is all about. If you try to go back to what you were doing before in exactly the same way, without taking heed of the messages and experiences and energetic shifts that we've all been privy to, that's not going to be cute for you. So think about that. Risk is where it's at. And we do have a protection message for this card, and I'm going to read it because I think a lot of you may struggle with this notion of coming to the edge. So, fear is leading the way into places you don't need to go. Most of what you fear at the moment is an illusion stemming from an old belief that isn't true. Now is a time for courage. You will not be lost at sea. You will not watch everyone else get what you want while you are left alone and unloved. Oh, the drama of it all. False evidence appearing real is hovering over you. The more you dwell on fear, the more real it will become. Ask yourself, who in me is afraid? Love that part of you. Ask, is this true and real right now? The answer most likely is no. Give yourself a hug. It's okay to be scared, and you better give yourself a hug because nobody else is going to do it. Courage must be summoned. In spite of your fear, even when you're not feeling confident, Spirit will always catch you, and that is the truth. But fear really does a number on us, and I know firsthand that it is extremely difficult to stay centered when we spend too much time in our heads and we spend too much time analyzing what we think other people expect and what they need and what they want and how we can provide that and how we are failing at providing that. And if you try to live your life in that capacity, that is all about control. This is all the stuff of the Piscean era, the age that we have decided to put an end to, right? And that what we feel like we've decided to put an end to it, but it is the collective conscience's obligation to do so in order to move into the age of Aquarius, which is what's happening. And that is letting go of the guru Christ consciousness mentality of the power being outside of ourselves, and coming into the understanding that the power is within us, and that in turn has to be a part of the collective in order for it to work. You've got 2,000 years to figure it out. But it would be nice to get a head start, right? Then we have our Spirit Animal Oracle card of the week, and I love the fact that we have never gotten the same card twice, even though I've been pulling these for a very long time. And I love that I get to say pig spirit, because people don't really think of pigs in a spiritual way, do they? This pig looks really very spiritual, I think. Number 47. Use your mind wisely. What does pig spirit have to tell us? The oracle message of pig spirit is: pig spirit appears to remind you of the right use of intelligence, a gift we all have that is meant to be used with love, compassion, and discernment. Intelligence means recognizing the value of intuition partnered with smarts and common sense, which leads to intelligent solutions. When pig spirit appears, you are called to respect your analytical mind and use it for the highest good, recognizing that all facts must be considered even when they do not fit with what you already know. The unknown. Leap of faith. Remember? Spirit blesses us with wisdom when we allow pig spirit to nudge us into open-minded, thoughtful dialogues, whether with others or internally, as we mull over our ideas and what we have come to understand. You are intelligent and capable of clear-minded thinking, shaped by the wisdom you have accumulated and the intuition that will tell you when you have more learning to do, because not all the facts are in. Now is a time that your decision-making powers are reliable, for you are in alignment with pig spirit's keen intelligence. If you're ruminating, turning thoughts around and around in your head but not getting nearer to a decision or solution, pig spirit is here to protect you from analysis paralysis. Let your mind rest now and allow your intelligence to mingle with the mysteries of intuitive guidance, releasing your tight hold on facts and unsolved puzzles, whether it be a relationship or any other aspect of your life. In fact, now might be a good time to think about something else altogether and release your grip on needing to know. When your thought processes are muddled by fear and anxiety, allow pig spirit to lead you back to the right use of your natural intelligence. Take a break, relax, and release the ball of worry. Soon, the smart choice will become clear to you. More facts may be needed, more digging for information, and more questioning. When seeking to learn more, enjoy the process of using your thinking prowess. All the elements of your intelligence are reliably guiding you now once you've given your mind a rest. So, I do know a few people, actually, who are in dire need of a mental vacation. Because when we are forced to keep our own company all the time, it's like having the best of relationships and the worst of relationships, because we know ourselves so well, but there's also so much of ourselves that we know well enough to want to forget. And that causes a lot of mental strife, because the way that we're trying to navigate our lives in interaction with other people, we try to fucking curate that, right? That is the Aries, Chiron and Aries energy of the wounded soul, the wounded ego, needing to reckon through external means. The curatorial notion behind social media, for example, is a byproduct of Aries energy in Chiron. And we've seen what that's done to people. I mean, it's made them massively insecure. It's made people unhappier than they've ever been before. And it's also caused an enormous amount of disarray in our society because no one knows the difference between fact and fiction any longer. I go for old-fashioned techniques like shooting by candlelight with a dim light in the corners so that you can't see what I really look like. Let's get on to the tarot. Okay, so I have pulled a Celtic Cross from the Rider-Waite deck, and I will clarify with the Hermetic Tarot deck, I think. But let's go with what we've already pulled. Our underlying energy of the week. The first card that came out was the Six of Pentacles. There's a strong emphasis on the idea of community in the upcoming week. I think a lot of people are going to start feeling like they, after being so separate, and actually being kind of reluctant to reintegrate any type of communion. Mostly because I think we've all been compelled to do so much self-knowledge work. But that seems to be shifting. Ironically, as these energies go retrograde, we're actually now going to have to process all of the things that over the last 5 months have taken hold in our lives, and we're going to be looking at them through the lens of not our inner reality, but how that then interacts with the outside world. Because when we're on our own, it's like the same thing as, you can write down theory, but until it's gone into practice, it's just theory, right? And that's kind of where we're at from a inner spiritual psychological dynamic. So, and it also came, the next card at the bottom of the deck was the Death card, and I was compelled to take it. I put it back several times, and I kept getting the message to pull it along with that. So that clarifies that. So that is also about an ending to our old way of socializing, our old attitudes. It's now time for the 2.0 version of ourselves to be presented for societal, sociocultural consequences to take hold, and then in turn put us onto a new path of destiny for the next chapter of our lives. We've established over the last few months that there was a huge karmic ending that took place. Now we've been in incubation for quite some time, and we may be in it on and off for a little bit longer. But we are coming out of the chrysalis, whether we like it or not. You can come out of the chrysalis and be your beautiful self and still be hanging, right? You don't have to fly. Yet. At the center of our reading, the Hermit. So, right now, this signifies us. This is where we're at. We are doing the inner work as much as we possibly can, mostly because we are... Sorry, it will not come up. Feeling like this. The Four of Cups. This is the Four of Cups on my face. Why do we feel like this? What is causing us to feel that all of this that we've done, all that we've accomplished, is not enough? Because this is like, and I will be clarifying this, but this is like, okay, so we're in our heads, we've learned a lot, perhaps so much so that we're radically different people at this point because we understand reality in a different way. We understand our purpose in a different way. We understand the vastness of potential, both in ourselves and in the universe. This is what we're coming out of. We've made a choice. This is in our past. This has come to an end. It's the end of that chapter. Whatever is leading us into the current energies comes from this choice to walk away from some form of false structure and stability. And we've come to understand that whatever that structure and stability that we used to think was emotionally fulfilling to us just isn't, and that we want more. And it's a little bit of a, we've gone through the Seven of Cups, which is the too many choices, and subsequently, is that all there is? Seven of Pentacles. And then we end up in the Eight of Cups energy, which is moving off into unknown subconscious waters to find a path guided only by the moon. And we know that that means that we've gotten to where we're at now on the basis of intuition. And intuition is going to be on fire in the coming months. Some major transformations are taking place within the awakened souls, where we're going to really start to feel the power of our intuition. And the more we feel that, the more we're going to be feeling in our own power, which is a beautiful thing, but also a very dangerous thing. Because if you haven't done enough work and intuition starts flaring up, where you're like, oh my god, how do I know these things? Why am I feeling this? Why do I... It's going to throw you, and then you're going to not trust yourself, and that's going to cause enormous fear, and it's going to cause you to feel stuck, and it's going to get in the way. It's going to be a hindrance to the flow that the universe is now offering us. So we've walked away from that in order to take a risk. Remember the messages we just got from the other cards. And it's that journey, that decision to take that risk and to tell yourself that you want more, that you deserve more, that there's more out there for you, causes us to go into, this is our underlying past energy, the Emperor energy. The Emperor energy is, there's a solidity to the Emperor's character. There's a knowingness, but there's also a despotic side to an authoritarian side to the Emperor. The Emperor isn't so good at expressing his emotions. He doesn't really actually feel the need to. He doesn't think that he should have to, but that's because he's too much in his yang energy and not enough in his yin energy, so therefore he doesn't realize that self-knowledge is vulnerability, and vulnerability is strength. So he may have a lot of power and he may rule over his empire, but how happy does he really look? And he has that Capricorn energy everywhere. Look at those horns. Restriction, tight ship, like draconian, I'm not going to suffer fools, so therefore I'm not going to have any experiences anymore of life, right? So we've gotten stuck. And that's what the Venus square Neptune energy is all about, and probably some of the manifestations through the retrograde energies. You know, it's like, we got to get unstuck. Because we've done all the work, we have the knowledge, and we have the strength, but we have to get unstuck from being afraid to be vulnerable. And how do we do that? In our immediate future, we have the Hangman. So that's going to require of us, this is a voluntary suspension. This is putting ourselves in the position where we do the, the Hermit is really, the inner work. The Hermit is using the star for guidance in his lantern. Sorry, I'm confused by the camera there. You see the star in the lantern. He's looking in reverence to the star for his intuition to come to fruition, but he's also holding the star energy to help others. The Hanged Man is when we get to that point where we know ourselves enough to know when we're stuck. And when we're stuck in something, we know that the only way to get unstuck is to do work on ourselves, to take into full understanding the scope of our experiences and how they have affected us. In other words, it's like taking a moral inventory. So this is the moral inventory of the last 5 months that we now have to do. And the only way that we can do that is by taking a personal time out with a very, very specific focus. This person is not just waiting for some kind of, information to come along. The information is in this person, but they know that they have to hang themselves like that in order for contemplation to lead to manifestation. What crowns us is the Six of Swords. So the Six of Swords, as we know, is our journey away from the rocky water on this side of the boat that is the subconscious mind in disarray to the smooth waters of a balanced mind with opportunities for growth on the horizon. So we have hope, and we have probably also, and we'll take a clarifier to get more information on that, but we also have a plan. How does that plan come about? In our present, for ourselves, we have the Eight of Wands, communication. We're getting back into a place where I'm getting that we will be actually receiving messages based upon seeds that were planted in the past. I will take a clarifier, but I'm trying to speed this up a little bit because I can see that this video is going to be around an hour long. The world in our environment, there's an ending in our environment. Something is changing. something pretty radical, the end of a cycle, the end of a type of experience, the end of a dynamic. In our psychological headspace, otherwise known as our hopes and fears, we have the Seven of Swords. And when I'm picking up on this card in terms of how to interpret this, because the Seven of Swords is a tricky card, because it's a little bit about boundaries, it's a little bit about sneaking off in the night. It's also a little bit about a lack of self-confidence to actually like wear our values on our sleeves, so therefore we need to sort of manipulate our way in or out of situations. Because this is our psychological headspace, I do think that there is a little bit of a sense of walking on eggshells because we're afraid of the power of our emotions. We are afraid of the intensity of our emotions, and perhaps for those of us that are reintegrating a normalization process in our lives after the coronavirus pandemic lockdown, I don't think that we know how to gauge who we are in that new reality. And the other thing is, a lot of people are not on this path of self-awareness and self-discovery, and in turn, spiritual expansion. To a lot of people, it would be far too challenging for them to integrate a spiritual five-dimensional view of the universe and of our life cycles. And there you are, having gone through this mega dose of metaphysical overhauling and spiritual reinvention, with all these revelations about the truth of our world and what our purpose is, coming into the beginning of an understanding of that sense of purpose, being able to find surrender to the divine purpose of your existence in order to make space for that to reveal itself in new circumstances. Well, the people that have not been on that journey, they're going to be looking at you like you are the most eccentric, I don't even know what to say, entity that they have come across. And prepare yourself for that, because you know your truth, you know the value of your truth, and you know why it's so hard for other people to be open and be vulnerable in that way to that kind of understanding, because they're attached to 3D realities that are restrictive and comfortable and secure, well, falsely secure. And you're not tethered to that any longer. And it's like I've already said, 5D is not about like suddenly growing like two horns and like a giant head and no longer being visible to people in 3D. 5D is a state of mind. It is a different reality based upon how our thoughts evolve evolutionarily, which in turn activates strands of DNA or RNA that has a quantum effect on our experience of perception of reality, which in turn means that we become limitless in terms of the power that we have in order to create change. But if you're up against a bunch of people who have no desire to change at all and are instead in fact, like, really attached to keeping things the same, oh my god, I want it to be the same as it was, otherwise who am I? You know, that is going to be very, very disturbing to those of us that have no desire to hold on to the old ways. And finally, our outcome card, the beautiful star card. So we started with the Hermit carrying that star in his lantern, and we end with the embodying of the star within ourselves. So I'm going to take clarifiers on this because we know that this is all about spiritual balance, and this is the subconscious and conscious minds being balanced out and the chakras being balanced. But what that means for us, other than being in the eternal flow of life, will be a mystery until we pull a clarifier, right? But first, I'm going to pull a clarifier on the Four of Cups, because I want to know why we're in that misery guts space. And we got the Princess or Page of Wands. The Princess of the Shining Flame in the Hermetic deck. Well, what this is basically saying is it's because we're not having fun. We need to get into the spirit of the Page of Wands. We need to be in, you know, the Page or the Princess of Wands is the most youthful, it's the most unevolved of the court cards. And it's like being a child. And the Wands are, of course, ideas, inspiration, fun, action, sexuality, self-expression, honest, clear, direct, childlike abandon in our communication. And because we're not tapping into that fun, probably because of the amount of fear that we've been conditioned to feel, that's getting in our way. So there's nothing like a card that tells us in our present that we need to have more fun. I'm happy to take the lead on that one, because I could use some fun. It's really not been that much fun lately, has it? Excuse me, I'm gonna yawn. I hate yawning on camera. It's very rude, but it is late, so I apologize. What else do I want to clarify on? I'm not going to do the Eight of Cups because we know what we've walked away from, or the Emperor because we know where that comes from. The Hanged Man, I would like a little bit of information on the Hanged Man in our immediate future as to why we need to do that contemplation and what it's all about. And we got the Nine of Swords to clarify the Hanged Man. Nine of Swords is worry. It's being overwhelmed. It's projecting and expecting the worst. It's projecting fear. It's projecting limitation. It's projecting emotional imbalance on others. And we could probably do ourselves a favor by focusing on our own backyard and doing that hangman energy. So the message is stop focusing on what other people are thinking and focus more on what you're thinking, because it really doesn't matter what they're thinking. They'll be doing their own thing and living their own lives, and unless they're paying your bills, who cares? Six of Swords in the future. I will take a clarifier on that, just in case there's some kind of information that we can get on what this movement onto smoother waters represents for us. Well, we got the Nine of Pentacles, so that's a self-contentment card that is also leading us towards legacy, but it is especially being in a place where we feel more comfortable in our lives, which, because Pentacles are money, excuse me, and financial and material stability. The Nine of Pentacles indicates that we're moving into an opportunity for that. I also took a second that came out, and that was Judgment. So there's a sense of there being a little bit of an intervention here, a push. So be prepared for the unexpected, because there may be a little bit of a push into a direction that you didn't really expect, or an opportunity that comes your way from left field. Those messages, the Eight of Wands. Yes, I want to know what's going on in our present that is bringing about communication, aside from the Mercury. I don't know what's happening. Why does everything have to fall on the floor? There's too many cards. What do they want to tell us? There's 4 of them. Okay, so the messages, we have the Nine of Cups. So the Nine of Cups is emotional contentment. The Ten of Wands, which is the end of a burdensome path, karmic journey, or perilous, taxing experience that has forced us into maturity on some level. The Wheel of Fortune, which tells us that the tide is turning for us. And if you've been having a shitty time, that's a good thing. If you've been having a great time, not so great. We all have to go through both extremes, right? And the Hierophant. So, because the Hierophant came after the Wheel of Fortune, and the Hierophant is the card of orthodoxy and tradition and structure, it is a Saturnian energy. I think the messages are that the shift is towards structure in our lives, but in a good way. Hopefully. I mean, if you're going to prison, that wouldn't be great, but that would imply that things have been going great for you in the last 4 months, and I don't really know anybody that can say that that is the case. What is ending for us in our environment? Spirit, the Sun. Well, that doesn't seem right, but I'll take it. Let's get another one, please. Oh, okay. Okay. We got the Ace of Swords, the Tower, Queen of Pentacles, and the Sun. So, what's ending? Okay, I get it. So, the Tower and the World, what's ending for us, the World card being the ending, the Tower being what brought about the ending, so there was something pretty drastic that probably actually made you feel not very good with somebody in your environment or in your attached to your life in some shape or form. And a truth came about that you were able to see something more clearly, and as a result, this Queen of Pentacles energy is now coming out of that problematic relationship, that problematic person. There's somebody who perhaps was not very accessible to you and maybe difficult, or somebody with a lot to offer, but who was being withholding towards you. As a result of this truth coming about, as some kind of a shift that allows us to move into the sun energies. So that's a good thing. I can't tell you what that will be though, because it depends on your life. Do we want a clarifier on that Seven of Swords? I guess so. Let's see what's going on in our minds. Why are our minds tortured in Seven of Swords energy? Oh. We got the Star, so that's the card that's supposed to lead us to. Okay. Okay, so if we're fearful that we're going to have to be dishonest or indirect in our way of going about providing a solution for ourselves or a betterment of some sort, we are being advised to focus on spirit and focus on receiving answers from our guides. Because they're trying to tell us something about how we go about these things. There's something to gain that we're not seeing in our interactions. This behavior that we have where we shut ourselves down and we don't actually navigate in a straightforward fashion because we are afraid of the consequences of our honesty and our directness. It's a revelation about something that is insecure within us that we need to work on. Actually, that's what the Hangman energies are in our future. That's what we need to work on. To eliminate the Nine of Swords, to eliminate all that worry, that overthinking. It's an overthinking energy. It's like we're overthinking how to gain an enlightened perspective on things that are causing strife. And the reality is that the answer is very simple. You cause the strife by allowing the strife to happen, because you're the one that's feeling the strife, nobody else. Those people that are not functioning on your level, they don't even know what's going on in your mind. So you have to remember that. And finally, a clarifier on the Star. Seeing as we just got the Star as the clarifier on that, it's pretty much clear that we have a very spiritual week ahead of us, but one that's going to be so because we're going to have to make a lot of effort to ground ourselves in our spirituality and our spiritual practices. And that's a lot of cards. I can't really handle all that. I need more, sorry. Can I just get a clarifier on the Star so that I don't ramble any longer and people can get on with their lives? Just make one fly or something so that I know it's the right card, because shit. Okay, we got the Empress and we got the Ace of Cups. So Ace of Cups, there's some kind of new emotional opportunity coming in. It's very expansive. I don't know what it is, but it's very expansive. And we have the Empress. I mean, the Empress is fertility. What are you trying to tell us, Empress? I need to know, because I need to end this reading. There's something missing here. That's why they tried to give me all those cards. Sorry. I'm going to probably edit some of this out so that you don't see me like struggling here with the outcome. But, I mean, the Star is a beautiful way to end a reading, but at the same time, with no context, it's a little vague. which I don't really like, and the World card keeps trying to come out, so that's that ending that we're talking about. So I think that there's an enormous amount of relief in that ending that we just looked over. Something is changing, something is ending in terms of the way that we interact with people in our environment, some kind of attitude that has been very limiting to us. We're going to have kind of an epiphany about that, and it's going to give us this emotional wealth of opportunity and both emotional opportunity and strength. The strength card has come out several times, and I keep putting it back because I don't know what to do with it in this case. The Empress, the Ace of Cups, and strength just basically means that you can kick ass, and good things are going to come as a result of that. And it's all coming through the channel of the spiritual work that you're doing in order to keep yourself centered and grounded, and holding space for new opportunities to come in. Ooh, that was a little strange, that ending, but it's like I can feel that there's something that I don't know how to express. Usually it comes quite easily, but this just feels like I'm getting like a tightness in my throat, as if it's about expression. There's something in our expression that needs addressing, and it's going to happen. It's not like we have a choice, but there's a clearing of something that's been hugely problematic in our development and the way that we've been able to find and experience opportunities. That's it. I can't say anymore. I hope this was helpful to you. I do not have any further insights on the energies at present, because I really feel that there's something very, very mysterious taking place. There's something extremely uncharted and unknowable that is in the air. So we'll talk more about that next week. If you would like to leave any questions in the comments below, I would very much appreciate it, because I do plan on doing more special videos on topics that people have questions about. It could be anything at all, as long as it doesn't really pertain to my personal life, which I will talk to you about too if you want, but that's not really the purpose of this channel. So I wish you a fantastic week ahead. Brace yourselves for change. Changing tides. I don't know what they are, but they're coming. And you need to be brave. Stay strong. You're divinely guided and protected. Namaste.